Good evening, everyone. It's Teacher Katie here from the Walla Walla YMCA Child Development Department. And this evening I have a book and it's called Hooray for Hoppy. And I love this book because it talks about the season of spring, but also talks about our 5 senses. So let's go ahead and read the book and then we'll talk a little bit more about our 5 senses. Here we go. Hooray for Hoppy. Hoppy woke up bright and early. He wiggled his nose and sniffed the air. Perhaps today's the day, he thought. But as he hopped to the top of his hole, he saw that the world was covered in snow. Too cold, he said, and he hopped back to bed. So maybe he thought it was spring, but it's not yet. The next morning, when Hoppy when Hoppy hopped to the top of his hole, his nose felt cold and the grass felt crunchy. Too icy, he said, and he hopped back to bed. So still too cold and too icy, he could feel that. A few days later, Hoppy woke up much earlier than usual. Perhaps today's the day, he thought. Hoppy twitched his nose. The air smelled fresh. Perhaps today really is the day. The day that spring arrives. Look at that blue sky and that sunshine. So Hoppy hopped down the hill to see if it was true. So he's looking using his eyes. I see some things here. Flowers are blooming on trees. The grass looks green. The sun is out. The sky is blue. Hooray, said Hoppy as he heard the birds singing. So he was looking and now he's listening to the birds singing. It sounds like spring has sprung. So I hear 2 of the senses so far, seeing and hearing. Hooray, said Hoppy as he sniffed the pretty flowers. So he's smelling using his nose. It smells like spring has sprung. I love this. Look, if you look closely, you can see a little heart on his nose and he's smelling the beautiful flowers using the sense of smell. So we have see, hear, and smell. Hooray, said Hoppy as he watched the lambs in the meadow. It looks like spring has sprung. So he's using those eyes and he can see. He's looking at the lambs, there's the butterflies. Everything he sees makes him think it is springtime. Hooray, said Hoppy as he nibbled the fresh green grass. It tastes like spring has sprung. So he nibbled on the grass so he can taste spring in his mouth. We have 4 of our senses so far. Hip, hip, hooray, said Hoppy as his feet touched the warm ground. If you remember from the beginning of the book, he came out of his hole and he felt crunchy grass and it felt icy and he knew it wasn't spring. Now he can feel on the ground the warmth, which makes him believe it's springtime. It even feels like spring has sprung. Today really is the day, thought Hoppy. He couldn't wait to see his friends. But when he reached the top of the hill, look at those ears standing up. He's at the top of the hill. Nobody was hard and as loud as he possibly could. You go ahead and try. Thump with your feet as hard as you could. I'm going to do it again. Ready, set, go. Thump, 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 thump. Suddenly everybody's out. Look how many bunny rabbits there are. There's so many I can't even count them. They must have heard him thumping on the ground. Hooray, shouted all the rabbits as Hoppy leaped high in the air. Spring had definitely and most wonderfully sprung. Look how happy they all are. Look at those beautiful flowers, boys and girls. Let's look a bit more at those senses we learned about. There are 5 senses that we use to discover the world. One is hearing. We listen with our ears. What can you hear? So maybe you can take a moment and listen. I actually hear our heater on right now. It's warming up our house. What does Hoppy hear? Remember what he heard? The birds singing. Number 2, smell. We smell with our noses. What can you smell? What can you smell right now? What does Hoppy smell? He smelled the flowers. That was our second one. Number 3 is sight. We see with our eyes. What can you see? I'm looking and I can see my house. I'm on the top floor of our house. I see our couches. I see our table. Lots of things to see in our house. What does Hoppy see? Remember, he could see the sheep and the lambs outside. Number 4 is taste. We taste with our tongues. What can you taste? You can use your mouth. What can you taste right now? Or think about when you eat or drink something next. What can you taste? What does Hoppy taste? Do you remember what he nibbled on? He nibbled on the grass. That's what he could taste. The 5th one is touch. We feel with our hands and feet. What can you feel? I have my slippers on and I can feel nice, warm, cozy feet right now. What do you feel? What does Hoppy feel? He felt the sunshine and the warmth in the air. That is the end of our book. There's so many things you can do with our 5 senses, and I'm going to do some fun things with those next week, which I can't wait to share with you. Everyone have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Bye, everybody.